This video is sponsored by NordVPN.
What's going on with Samsung's Galaxy S26 series? There have been rumours, leaks, cancelled phones, then uncancelled phones, then cancelled phones again, with the iPhone and Pixel this year being as good as they are, and then OnePlus dropping one of the better high-end Androids. It's all kicking off with Samsung, whose next phones are supposedly being announced in January or February next year. Samsung seems to have its work cut out, so let's talk about that. Hey guys, I'm Ryan Thomas, and there has been so much online discourse surrounding the Galaxy S26 series. I can't remember the last time the Galaxy was so talked about, which is ironic really, because recent Samsung devices have largely been quite unimaginative. Iterative is perhaps the most accurate description of them. There are leaks, rumours, new cameras, charging tech, divisive processor decisions, and which new model is being scrapped. Is it the Edge? Is it the Plus? What's going on? More on that after a quick word from today's sponsor.
One of the most convenient and handy inventions of the last few years is certainly a VPN, and that's where this video's sponsor NordVPN comes in. Not only does this service help you browse anonymously, tunneling your network traffic through another region which helps secure your connection, but it's also just really handy for watching programs, movies and sports that you just wouldn't get in your home version of Netflix, for example. Or if, like me, you're a die-hard Premier League fanatic and you go on holiday, being able to log into your streaming services just as you normally would without a fuss is brilliant, and NordVPN allows you to do that. It works on Mac, Windows, iOS and our beloved Android. It's easy to install and get set up. If you go to nordvpn.com/androidpolice, you'll get up to 77% off a 2-year plan and 4 months extra for free. So check that link out in the video description, and a big thanks to NordVPN for sponsoring today's content.
Okay, so first thing we have to talk about is the potential use of an Exynos chip in the next model. TLDR, many models down the years have alternated between worldwide Snapdragon shipment setups and then a split model the next year where half of the world gets Samsung and half of the world gets Snapdragon. Generally speaking, the Exynos chips just aren't as good. They're not as powerful, particularly in GPU performance compared to the Snapdragon. So it was really nice this year when we all got to experience the 8 Elite, even us in Europe. But rumours are pointing towards the use of an Exynos 2600, the successor to what you'd find in the worldwide versions of the Z Flip 7 this year. The use of one of these in the 26 series could go both ways. Either Samsung has built a brilliant chipset that can finally compete with Qualcomm, resulting in great user experiences, plus some serious kudos to Samsung Foundry, or it can't hold its own against the competition and buyers end up spending the same money for a gimped phone in certain regions. Can you see why this is a bit of a gamble? With Xiaomi, Honor and OnePlus opting to use the tried and true 8 Elite Gen 5 chipset this year, it's only really the Pixel that would underperform Samsung's Exynos if the Exynos was to come to many models and not be that big step up that a lot of us were hoping for. Samsung's camera setups in its latest Galaxy S phones have remained basically the same, or at least very similar, for a few generations now. Much like Google's Pixel cameras, although Google putting its AI chops into a really good camera setup makes the same hardware from a couple of years ago way more powerful than anyone else's. The Galaxy S25 and 25 Plus cameras were distinctly different to the Edge and the Ultras in that they use sort of the cut down versions, smaller sensors, smaller lenses, just not as capable across the board. And that's kind of been the same thing for a long time. These phones are not cheap by any means, by the way. Just because they look more generic and don't have as interesting suffixes to their names, that doesn't mean that they're not very expensive smartphones. There are currently rumours that the base model main sensor is getting an upgrade in size, if not resolution, which should help with low light performance, natural bokeh, dynamic range. I'm really interested to see what they do with this one because the main camera has stayed the same for just so long. And the primary camera of the Edge and the Ultra, or maybe just the Ultra, could end up with a wider aperture than what we currently have, though a similar sensor and lens combo. There are rumours that maybe the resolution will go up, but they're not very concrete at the moment. Again, this would enable slightly better low light performance, which would be nice, but it isn't the same sort of insane upgrade that, maybe a 1-inch type sensor would be, although I totally understand why we probably won't get a 1-inch type sensor in these mainstream ultra class phones. They would cost an absolute fortune. There are loose rumours that the kind of throwaway 3x could be replaced by a bigger sensor than what we currently have in the S25 Ultra's 5x setup, and this would also go to the base model 26 as well as the Ultra, which would be really cool if true. Perhaps something around the 1/2-inch sensor size, what OnePlus included with the 12 and the 13. I wouldn't say no to hardware like that because it's a real shame that the OnePlus 15 has seen a downgrade in that area. It would be a good time for Samsung to capitalize on that. Murmurings of a 200 megapixel 5x telephoto certainly pricked my ears up, and that sounds like it could be the base of something for Samsung's AI zoom camera that could actually go toe to toe with Google's long lens. I'm not a betting man, but if it were me, I wouldn't put the house on this one. If Samsung did decide to use what's currently like the primary sensor in its 5x telephoto zoom, that would make it the best telephoto on a mainstream phone available in North America, which would be massive, but I wouldn't count on it. Now we have to address is the Galaxy S26 Edge replacing the S26 Plus situation? And I warn you now, I do not have concrete evidence for what I'm about to say. This is conjecture. What we do know is that a leaker called Alchemist has said the S26 Plus model is not going away, and that Samsung's follow-up to the S25 Edge has been cancelled. Other outlets and rumours have pointed towards this as well, and due to poor sales from the S25 Edge, which makes sense with it being a more niche model, but I think that's also a big shame. It's looking more and more like Samsung has definitely cancelled the Edge, but since we don't have official confirmation, we can't say with 100% certainty. It is looking like the S25 Edge is going to be a one and done model though. I've kind of been a loud voice on smartphones from Samsung, Apple and Google shipping with outdated wired charging tech, but it looks like that might be about to change. If rumours are anything to go by, the Ultra variant of the S26 is going to receive 60 watt fast wired charging. Now that's not 100 watts, 120 watts, whatever. It's not going to match OnePlus or Xiaomi or Honor, but I'd happily take 60 watts on a Samsung high-end model. I think that's a pretty good upgrade, and it should make the battery quicker to charge. There are also rumours and leaks of almost a 10% uplift in raw battery capacity in the base model S26 next year. That would be a really nice bump, though because battery life isn't just affected by the raw capacity, it's hard to tell how much of this you would feel in the new phone, and maybe Samsung knows it's going to release a phone with an Exynos chipset and is making up for that with a bit more battery to match the Snapdragon variant. So the S26 series is looking pretty promising, interesting at the very least. Maybe not earth-shattering given the information that we think we know, but there seems to be a bit more going on this year versus last year. It's a real shame about the Edge. As an S25 Edge daily user myself, I have to say this thing has been fantastic for the good couple of months that I've used it. And hey, the new charging tech could be a great addition to the always action-packed Ultra. We'll have to see just what happens in January or February next year, but if even half of the rumoured changes are true, and given what OnePlus has done with the 15 this year, we could see the smartphone race seriously heat up. Guys, are you interested in the new Galaxy S series? I can't lie, Samsung tends to put out a really solid phone each year, even if more recently they haven't been awe-inspiring behemoths. Instead, they just tend to be really solid and get the job done. For me, the most interesting rumours have to be the potential Samsung SoC used, and maybe even the changes to the 3x telephoto camera. Get subscribed to stay tuned and to not miss our S26 coverage next year when the devices drop. Like if you enjoyed today's content, and subscribe to never miss another upload. Thank you all so much for watching. I've been Ryan Thomas, and I will catch you later. Cheers.